What's up, everybody? It's the Digital World Podcast. There's a lot of talk of CBDCs like we talked about yesterday. Now, it's interesting because the words that are coming out of these regulators, these central bankers, it's like it's describing the use case of XRP. And and there's a lot of talk about how Bitcoin is not the one, and it's a speculation, it's a bubble, it's this and that, and these are words coming out of like the head of the heads of these central bankers, and I'll show you right now. Let's start with this. Equity Capital said, I'll give him a follow. He said, whoops. He said liquidity is trapped and assets are trapped, and that is a multi-trillion-dollar problem, David Schwartz. So essentially, you need interoperability. You need a bridge between these assets. And if that's a multi-trillion-dollar problem, and the XRP ledger and the token XRP are coming to solve that, what do you think the price of that token would be? How valuable do you think that protocol is if this is a multi-trillion-dollar problem that it solves? I'm just asking for a friend. Excuse me. Moving on. Craig Dewitt posted this. Recently released US Faster Payments Cross-Border White Paper. The Futures, Innovation, and Interoperability. Sound familiar? Great collaboration across industry leaders, including Ripple, to make the US more globally competitive. And this is the key. We have to pay attention to those assets that bring innovation and interoperability, something that brings utility, something that can connect these pools of trapped liquidity of these assets that are trapped together, and the XRP ledger will do just that. Stefan Huber posted, no matter how many fairy tales of volcanological energy or thermodynamical soundness the Bitcoin maxis try to sell you, and how many times they pray their mantra of eternal anti-regulation, for Bitcoin the future doesn't look that flowery anymore. And he's referring to this. You see that the City Week 22 one of financing a sustainable global recovery. Okay, this is something that's happening for that's organized by local governments. And we see here that day one, they're talking about all these things: climate change, preparing to go net zero, climate risk scenario. We see market-based carbon pricing, the climate change strategy. So all these things have to do with going net zero, with climate change, and with the amount of energy that Bitcoin produces. It's not looking great for its prospective future. It really isn't. And this is an interesting narrative that's building more and more and more. And you just pay attention. I'm not asking you to believe me or anything. I'm just showing you the information, and you make your decision for yourself about the narrative that's being built and what's coming. Okay? Because if you look at it, going net zero is becoming a global thing. And being climate friendly is becoming a global thing. This is becoming a narrative that is forming in institutions, corporations, nations. And this is a global thing that is happening. XRP Boy posted this. Now pay attention to what he says.
Later on, it was what we call libertarians that were very excited about the fact that you could actually have a form of money that did not involve the central bank. And then lately, it's just been people trying to earn a quick buck, or maybe they were fearful of missing out. So my boss at the Bank for International Settlement, Augustin Carsens, recently gave a lecture in which he described Bitcoin as a combination between a bubble, a Ponzi scheme, and an environmental disaster.
Okay, and he said Augustin Carsens from the BIS clearly stated it was a bubble, a Ponzi scheme, and an environmental disaster. These are strong words coming from uh, the head of the BIS, and his words carry weight, believe it or not. Moving on to the next thing, the Carsens Daily posted this. This is Benoit Courier.
In the country, but as I guess we've said repeatedly, and that's on top of the excessive energy used to mine Bitcoin. Bitcoin is more of a speculative asset than money, and it has certainly failed the test of becoming a means of payment.
He said it fails the test of becoming a means of payment. It's a speculative asset. I mean, right now everything is speculative. Let's be clear about that. But you can't you speculate on what the digital assets will be, but you know the use cases and the utility of each asset and what it brings to the table. What problem does it solve? Okay, that's the important question you have to ask yourself. And so, right now we're in a speculative market. We've talked about that. But we know the problems that each digital asset is solving, okay? And for a means of payment, yeah, that was the original vision by Satoshi Nakamoto, but that's not at all what Bitcoin is today, okay? Digital Asset Investor posted this, that it was never Bitcoin or Ethereum. There were tests. Watch this.
Cryptocurrencies promise a lot. Cryptocurrencies promise a lot, but they don't always deliver. Think about money. Money has value because it has users. We use it as money. Without users, it would simply be a worthless token. And that's true whether it's a piece of paper with a face on it or a digital token. And the more other people accept money as money, the more I want to use it. So in that respect, the motto would be, the more, the merrier. But today's cryptocurrencies don't necessarily work like that. Well, take Bitcoin. The system works by bringing together two groups. On the one hand are the users who make and receive payments, and on the other are the so-called miners who record the transactions in the ledger. Now, the two groups depend on each other because the users need the miners to record the transactions, but the miners also get paid for doing their job. And because the miners can pick and choose which transactions to process, the more you offer to pay the miners, the more likely it is that your transaction will be included in the ledger.
Okay, there you see. Now moving on, we see Benoit Courier again, and now Anders L says he used the same argument as Brett Garlinghouse did at the BIS meeting. Have settlement in a single bridge asset in order to thicken liquidity. Now let's listen to what he says.
Which is one where the exchange and settlement of different CBDCs are brought together on the same platform, and here the key advantage is about streamlining the number of possible transactions. If you have a large number of CBDCs in the global economy, then you have an even larger number of possible transactions between different couples of CBDCs. N times n minus 1 over 2, I guess. And if you want to make this faster, to streamline this, it makes a lot of sense to bring the transactions on a single platform, where possibly also with a single settlement asset that would be used in the which is one.
Did you see that? Did you hear that at the end?
Where possibly also with a single settlement asset that would be used in the which is one.
Okay, so you have a single system and a single settlement asset. Now, this is exactly what Anders was talking about. Brad Garlinghouse had the same argument at the BIS meeting, where you'll have a settlement and a single bridge asset to thicken liquidity. Now, that sounds awfully familiar to XRP. He says So I'm pretty much convinced it'll look like this: a single platform for settlement between all CBDCs, and by the words of Correa, possibly a single asset for settlement between CBDCs. If that role would be for a CBDC, he wouldn't have stated an asset for settlement. And as we know, that XRP has been pushed for this exact role by Ripple for years. Okay, and he and Brad Garlinghouse participated at the BIS meeting pitching this exact idea. Okay, now this is getting interesting, and folks, I'm telling you, the timeline between all this is very interesting with this lawsuit for XRP, everything, and it could be that maybe it was buying some time, getting all things in place in order, and pay attention to everything that's happening because it's getting very interesting. We see the facts, we see everything that's being said, and we follow the cookie trail, the cookie crumble trail, and it leads you to a whole, you speculate, but you speculate with what you're being told. And I'm telling you, it matches, and it makes sense. It makes sense. Now, to end on this, it says banks in South Africa are blocking customers from using debit and credit cards to purchase crypto from international exchanges. Interesting. We've heard a lot about this. So just keep your eyes open and pay attention. I hope this episode has brought you some value. Like and subscribe. Comment below. What are your thoughts? As always, I like hearing from you. This is the Digital World Podcast, and I'll see you in the next episode.